Your microphone may not. Well, kind of what? Thank you for that.
Welcome, everyone. Before we start, I want to explain how to use Zoom tonight to ensure that everyone can fully participate in this public comment hearing from the start. Oh, sorry. Sorry, David. Yes, please. On the record, please. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Before we start, I want to explain how to use Zoom tonight to ensure that everyone can fully participate in this public comment hearing from the start. For audio-only participation, attendees can dial in at 646-558-8656, which is not a toll-free number, and then enter the webinar ID 899-620-36437. Whether you are here in the auditorium or on Zoom, our hybrid setup for the hearing should allow you to see and hear everything said tonight. We will be recording the hearing tonight, and it will be posted on the department's YouTube channel. That listing is provided in the notice for the public comment hearing. I'd like to welcome everyone to this public comment hearing in the Department of Public Utilities docket D.P.U. 24-151. This proceeding involves a request by Westfield ESS LLC for individual and comprehensive zoning exemption for the construction of a 200 megawatt or 800 megawatt hours battery energy storage system and an approval to construct associated transmission infrastructure, including 2 underground transmission lines and 2 project substations, which collectively I will refer to as the project. My name is Donna Sharkey. I'm the hearing officer in this proceeding, and I am conducting the hybrid public comment hearing tonight. As you can see on the stage tonight and on your screen, if you are participating remotely, there are other people with me from the department who will be involved in the review of this project. Stacy Rubin, Commissioner of the Department of Public Utilities, is here with us tonight and would like to speak to everyone at this time. Commissioner Rubin.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer Sharkey. Good evening and welcome to the Department of Public Utilities public hearing regarding Westfield ESS LLC's proposal to construct and operate 2 underground transmission lines and obtain a zoning exemption from the City of Westfield zoning ordinance. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Stacy Rubin, and I serve as Commissioner of the Department of Public Utilities. We are overseen by a 3-member commission. Chair Jamie Van Nostrand and Commissioner Cecile Frazier are unable to attend tonight since they are attending another public hearing on a different matter. We are also joined by dedicated and talented staff from the Department Siting Division, and this collective team will assist the Commission in reaching a final decision on these proposals. As we review the proposals, we have the challenging yet exciting task of balancing multiple priorities. The Massachusetts legislature requires our agency to prioritize not only safety, security, reliability, and affordability, but also equity and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Determining how to balance those 6 priorities is part of our daily work toward an equitable and affordable clean energy transition. Energy storage systems represent an important piece of how the Commonwealth pursues these goals. Tonight's public hearing comes at an important time just 2 weeks after Governor Maura Healey signed a new law, an act promoting a clean energy grid, advancing equity, and protecting ratepayers. That law sets the stage for many important changes to how we site energy infrastructure in the Commonwealth, including for energy storage systems like the one we're discussing tonight. This new climate law will accelerate the deployment of clean energy infrastructure. It will facilitate community input on the permitting and siting of clean energy infrastructure, and it will ensure that the benefits of the clean energy transition are shared equitably among all residents of the Commonwealth. Numerous components of that new climate law are effective on March 1st of 2026. So it will take time for our team to implement the law, and we will invite public comments at a different time on those draft proposals before they are finalized. I want to share with you 4 of the Department Commission's priorities over the next few years. The first of these priorities is transparency, which we jokingly referred to earlier tonight. I'm present here to hear your thoughts on these proposals. The Commission makes its decisions in writing, so we will not make any rulings here tonight. I will be taking careful notes and listening intently. The department staff will review the company's testimony. We will cross-examine witnesses in evidentiary hearings and review public comments. Your comments tonight will inform the questions that department staff will ask to gather evidence and be used to make the final decision. We will do our best to respond to your comments in the written decision. For this case, we created a page on our website that is specific to the procedures and processes of the case, and you can review information there about the company's proposals. All of this leads to more transparency. A second priority is clean energy. In 2021, the legislature expanded our agency's enabling law to require us to consider issues like clean energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. As we reduce those emissions, we will also reduce our exposure to the impact of expensive and volatile fossil fuels, such as the dramatic run-up of natural gas prices last winter, given this region's exposure to the global liquefied natural gas market. Wind and solar both have 0 fuel costs, so in the long term, this clean energy transition will be good for customers. In the short term, however, it may be expensive. And that brings me to our third priority, which is affordability. Energy prices are very expensive in this region compared to other parts of the country. Utilities will file with our agency seeking to increase them further to recover the costs associated with offshore wind and the investment in transmission and distribution infrastructure that's necessary so we can interconnect solar and accommodate electric vehicle charging and electric heat pumps. We need to take action to address the challenges of climate changes and the challenges that residents of the Commonwealth have in paying their bills. Earlier this year in January, we opened a proceeding to explore innovative solutions to the affordability issue. We invited the public to offer comments on programs that might alter low-income discount programs or cap the amount that people spend based on their income. In the energy burden docket, we collected a large number of comments, which we are still reviewing. We will convene stakeholders to discuss a better approach for Massachusetts to reduce energy burdens. Our fourth and final priority that I will discuss tonight is equity and environmental justice. We need to do a better job of providing opportunities for meaningful involvement of environmental justice populations in our proceedings, particularly when we are taking action to approve the siting of energy facilities and infrastructure that is part of this clean energy build-out. This includes providing opportunities for limited English proficient speakers to understand and participate. It also includes integrating environmental justice into our decision-making process. That's a high priority for us. Our agency hired a new director of environmental justice and public participation who joined us in March of this year. And that individual and her team is supporting our efforts to better involve the public in our work for equitable outcomes. Back to the point of tonight's hearing. The actions of our agency affect nearly everyone in the Commonwealth. Our decisions will be better when we hear from you and ensure that your comments influence our decisions. This public hearing is one way that you can participate and influence our decision. Thank you for making time in your very busy schedules to attend this evening and to share comments with us. I'll turn it back over to Presiding Officer Sharkey.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin. I'd like to introduce the rest of the bench who's sitting here to take your comments tonight. I would like to introduce Andrew Green, Director of the Department Siting Division, Joan Foster Evans, General Counsel of the Siting Division, Wayne Wong, Assistant Director of the Siting Division, who's back at the table up front, Tim Riley, Senior Energy Analyst, and Nathaniel Strasberg, another Energy Analyst with the Siting Division. Please let us know if you are having any technical difficulties with Zoom. Call or text 857-200-0065 for assistance. Council and representatives for Westfield ESS, which I will refer to tonight as the company, are also participating in this public comment hearing and will make a presentation regarding the proposed project. For those of you using Zoom to participate remotely, the public will have a full opportunity to see and hear everything said during this hearing, to offer comments and to ask questions. For those of you accessing the meeting by phone dial-in, you too can hear everything and have an opportunity to comment or ask questions. The instructions on how to participate were provided in the public comment hearing notice that was published in the Westfield Voice and the Springfield Republican, and in the notices sent to addresses near the project. The notice related to this project is posted in a number of different places online, with links that would allow you to obtain additional information, including the Westfield ESS project webpage on the Department Siting Division webpage, the Department Siting calendar, and the company's project website, which is identified as the Springfield Energy Project website. The links and web addresses are listed in the notice. I will now briefly describe the filings made by Westfield ESS related to its proposed project and the legal standards that govern the department's project review. Next, I will ask the company to make a presentation regarding the project. After that presentation, I will open the floor to comments and questions from members of the public. Please note that we will also review any written comments submitted by the public by email through Friday, December 20th, 2024. The proposed location for the project is on approximately 34.9 acres of land on Maderos Way in Westfield, Massachusetts, specifically on parcels 70R-17 and 63R-37, which we will refer to collectively as the project site. The project includes locations on Maderos Way for 2 sets of battery storage units. The northern parcel is 23.3 acres in size, would include approximately 140 megawatts or 560 megawatt hours of battery storage units, a project substation, and supporting infrastructure. The parcels are in an Industrial A zoning district. The portion of the project on the northern parcel is currently occupied by a freight trailer storage business. The southern parcel, which is 11.6 acres inside, would include approximately 60 megawatts or 240 megawatt hours of battery storage units that along with a second project substation and related infrastructure. Transmission lines from the northern and southern parcels interconnect the 2 project substations to the existing Buck Pond substation, which is also located on Maderos Way. The proposed transmission lines are approximately 1,800 feet and 600 feet long. A project description and maps of the project site were provided in the notice of this public comment hearing. We have additional copies available near the entrance to this room if anyone needs a copy tonight. The company filed a petition with the department under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 72. Under this statute, the department will review the filing to determine whether the proposed project is necessary, serves the public convenience, and is consistent with the public interest. The company's request for zoning exemptions from the City of Westfield zoning ordinance for the project is filed pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 3. Under this statute, the department must determine whether the company is a public service corporation, whether the exemptions are required, and whether the present or proposed use of the land or structure is reasonably necessary for the convenience or welfare of the public. There are multiple ways that you can participate in the department's review of the project. First, you may comment on the project tonight. You may also file written comments by Friday, December 20th, 2024, by email to me at the address in the notice and to the company's counsel, whose email address is also listed in the notice. In addition, you may choose to seek participation as an intervener or a limited participant in the proceeding. The deadline for requesting participation as an intervener or as a limited participant is Friday, December 20th, 2024. We would encourage anyone who does seek to participate to review the material published on the department's website, which outlines the different ways in which you can participate in the proceedings. For example, you may participate as a full intervener. A full intervener has rights to ask discovery questions of the company, to present witnesses, to ask questions of witnesses testifying at the hearings, to file briefs and motions, and to appeal the decision of the department. In the alternative, you may participate as a limited participant. A limited participant can receive filings made in this proceeding and may file briefs with the department. A limited participant. The information on participation is also in the public comment notice for this proceeding. If you would like a copy of the notice and intervention rules, please send your contact information to my email at donna.sharkey@mass.gov, and I can send the information to you by email. The company counsel and company representatives are participating in this public comment hearing. May I have appearances of counsel, please?
Shane Early of Shepherd Mullen for the company.
Thank you. I would note the company has provided a certification that the notice for this public comment hearing has been provided consistent with the terms required by the department. Would the company like to begin with its presentation regarding the project? After that presentation, we will open the floor for comments and questions from the public.
Yes, thank you very much, Officer Sharkey. As I mentioned, my name is Shane Early, and I am the attorney representing the company and helped them file a petition with the department in September. I'm going to introduce Dan Watson, who will give the presentation for the company. And first off, I want to thank everyone for coming up. As both Presiding Officer Sharkey and Commissioner Woodley stated, this is an important part of the process and a great opportunity for both the company and the Department of Public Utilities to understand the public's thoughts and concerns about the projects as we work through this entire process. It's great. It's obviously challenging at times to come out in the evening, and it's great to see you here and great to see many faces who are also at the earlier open house that the company held. We look forward to hearing your comments. There are other people from Jupiter Power, the company, and their consultants were here. We're happy to talk with anyone who has questions afterwards on those issues. There are consultants from Epsilon who dealt with a number of different environmental issues and filed reports with the petition. There's also a representative from Fire Risk Alliance who additionally filed a report with the petition. So with that, I'll introduce Dan Watson, the lead developer for the company on the project.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you, Commissioner Rubin, D.P.U staff, City of Westfield leaders, government officials, and everyone in the community who attended this evening and attended virtually, who has come to our previous open houses. I'm going to give a brief presentation. There we go. So my name is Dan Watson. I am with Jupiter Power. That is the parent company of Westfield ESS LLC. The project is also referred to as Streamfield Energy Storage. That's the project nickname, so to speak. Clicker is not working. All right, there we go. So a little bit about the project team, the people involved in preparing our petition. Again, Jupiter Power, we are the developer and long-term owner-operator of this project. We have Time Bond here, who is our civil engineer. We have Epsilon Associates, who's our environmental consultant. Fire and Risk Alliance, who does our safety engineering. Our electrical engineering was done by NEI, Electrical Power Engineering, Inc. And then our permitting counsel is Shane with Shepherd Mullen. I'll give a brief overview of Jupiter Power. All this information is available on our website, jupiterpower.io, if you want to learn more about our projects. We are a developer, owner, and operator of battery energy storage projects, large-scale energy storage projects. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas. We were founded in 2017 with the express purpose of developing and building these projects. We have a fleet of just about 12 projects, between 9 operational projects and 3 currently in construction across the US. Most of those historically have been in Texas. And we have a 1,000 megawatt pipeline here in New England. Most of that is here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is just some examples of some of the projects that we have built as a company. Just gives you an overview of what these facilities, when they're actually built, what they look like. Again, I won't get into all the details on these. A lot of information is available on our website about these projects. So I want to give a brief overview of just laying the baseline of what battery energy storage systems are and why we are proposing this here in Westfield. So these batteries, they're designed to pull energy from the grid during periods of low demand and produce that energy during periods of higher demand. These projects connect to the transmission system. They don't connect to any single energy resource, but they pull power agnostically. And that power is then sold back into the grid during periods of high need. So as many of you know, our energy use in the Commonwealth does not stay the same throughout the day and even seasonally. And so batteries help levelize that demand and make sure that our grid is resilient, while also doing that without producing any carbon emissions. That's the real benefit of these projects. It's a little overview of what exactly are in these projects. These start with a battery cell. They are lined in string in a battery module, which is a hard plastic and metal box. That's the second image here. These are lithium iron phosphate cells proposed for this project. Again, the modules are stacked on top of each other in a unit here. It's also called a battery rack. And then those are placed inside a container. These projects that Jupiter builds are open air container-based systems. So what that means is they are assembled in a manufacturing plant elsewhere and then arrive on site in that containerized unit that you see on your right here. That means we are not actually altering the battery cells or modules at any point in time actually at this site. So no alteration of the chemistry. For us, safety always comes first. We recognize the importance of safety to battery energy storage projects. Coordination with first responders, all the emergency services is critical to our project development. We want to make sure they understand the project, the layout, the access considerations, all of that, and that there's a clear and safe protocol if there ever is any sort of event that occurs at our facilities. So we hire teams like the Fire and Risk Alliance to help us prepare those reports. Those reports that outline a lot of this are part of the petition and are living documents that will continue to amend and edit and work with the emergency services here in Westfield. We also do classroom trainings with Fire and Risk Alliance and the emergency services. We do site walks with the plant, both before and after it's built. And one of the things that we want to make sure we do is we have a program, so there's annual refresher trainings about these facilities. I want to speak a little bit about Jupiter's construction and operations practices, some of the things that we're proud of and specific to this project. First of all, we are an owner operator. So every day we have a team of traders and maintenance people who wake up and manage our facilities that are already built. And that would be the plan here, is to own this for the long term. That gives us a little bit of a different perspective on how to build these projects safely and make sure that they're really part of the community and work and are going to be here for 20 plus years. We really think about project design. We've really considered the Water Resource Protection District and the Zone 2 wellhead protection zones. And we know how sensitive that is here. We've really made sure that all of our equipment for these sites is located out of those zones. We've also made sure we maximize the use of previously developed areas, and we avoid all of the wetland resources and buffer areas for these sites. Stormwater management, again, we have professional engineers who have designed this to comply with Massachusetts stormwater management standards. And we actually have gone above and beyond that for this project. We have some bespoke drainage systems to add an additional layer of protection on these sites. We comply with the state noise regulations. An important part of this project is that once we are operational, we really have very minimal traffic. These plants are not manned, they are remote operated. So you don't have people coming in and out most days. And of course, we don't want to lose the forest for the trees here. These are clean energy projects. This is the transition. This is how we get there without any more greenhouse gases while meeting the peak demand that we have here in the Commonwealth. So while that's great, we want to talk about the benefits here for Westfield. Obviously, the commissioner spoke about the Commonwealth's energy goals and clean energy goals, and this is a big part of that transition. We also, enhance grid resiliency locally. These projects are able to meet sudden changes in electricity demand almost simultaneously. They are very fast to turn on. That enhances grid resiliency in the region. Again, we think, a great property. We're reusing an existing trucking operation, a site for a trucking operation, minimizing new disturbance, and again, hopefully lowering vehicular traffic in the area. There's obviously construction jobs associated with the year-plus long construction cycle of this project and a handful of long-term jobs. And we hope to bring a significant amount of property tax revenues, well, when we are built, with very minimal burden on municipal services like your gas, your sewer, your garbage, your school systems. Again, hopefully improving the electric grid and very minimal water usage. So this is the site. Again, I don't want to get into too much detail. We could speak for a very long time about all the different project details and site plans. That's all available in the petition on our website, on the D.P.U's website as well. But just a brief overview. This site is located here on Maderos Way, which is off Southampton Road. Maderos Way is also formerly known as Summit Lock Road. This is the Buck Pond substation here. We have two parcels, the northern parcel and the southern parcel. The northern parcel is 23 acres. The southern parcel is just under 12 acres. We're going to be developing on about 12 acres of those two parcels. And then we're going to interconnect again with that Buck Pond substation. There's been a lot of analysis that's gone into selecting these sites. There's an alternatives analysis as part of our petition. We encourage folks to read that and recognize, the work that we did, the geotech, the stormwater, noise studies, traffic, and all that went into selecting these sites and the design that we have. Again, this is the site plan. You can see these are all the battery units here and here, stormwater management features here and here, and then the project substations in the darker gray, and then the electric lines connecting into the Buck Pond substation. These are project renderings, so you can see the existing trucking facility on the northern parcel shown here on the top left, and then the image on the right is the post-construction view facing north off of Maderos Way. You can see that the overall visibility is pretty similar to the existing trucking operation. These batteries really do kind of look like containers once they're installed. They sit relatively low to the ground. And we also have a line of sight profile from the nearest residence to the property, showing the roughly 600 feet of forest in between the northern parcel, the development limits, and that residential property. Again, all this information is in the petition if you'd like to review this in more detail. So updates and next steps. We obviously, the D.P.U process is going to continue over the next 6 to 12 months at least. I would like to emphasize that, we've had 2 open houses here in Westfield. We've had a number of meetings with municipal officials and other community groups. Just because we have started the D.P.U process and we've kicked that off does not mean those meetings need to stop at all. We will hope we can continue to engage with the community in whatever way you all see fit, as the D.P.U considers this project in their process. We'll continue to work again with all the city departments we have been, and hopefully more. And the plan would be to start construction in March of 2026, so about 15 months from now. Our agreement with the regional grid operator, ISO New England, does require us to be operational by June 2027 in order to meet a capacity supply obligation we've secured for the project. So that's all the information I have. Again, thank you to everyone for joining us this evening, and we look forward to your comments.
Thank you. Next, we will proceed with public comments regarding the project. We begin with federal, state, and local officials appointed as well as elected officials who wish to be heard. Then we will proceed with members of the public who have signed up to speak in the order in which they have signed up. Finally, we will allow anyone who wishes to speak but did not have the chance to let us know in advance proceed. When called to speak, if you are participating remotely, we will move you into the Zoom panel so you can be seen and heard by the Zoom audience as well as those here in the auditorium. For all speakers, please give your name and address, spell your name, and speak slowly and clearly. Please stop speaking if you see me raise my hand. If a company responds to a comment or question asked is appropriate, I will ask the company to respond. This public comment hearing is being recorded through an official transcript by a court stenographer who is here tonight. In order to accurately transcribe everything spoken tonight, he needs to hear you clearly. So please be patient if we need to interrupt you to repeat yourself so it can be included in the record. In addition to the transcript, we are recording tonight's public comment hearing and will post the recording on the department's YouTube channel. Anyone can review the recording at the YouTube channel address included in the notice. Okay, we are now ready to begin to hear your comments. Please identify yourself, giving your name and the office that you hold for the record. Do we have any federal officials present or on Zoom that wish to comment? Please raise your hand in person or on the Zoom if you wish to speak. Are there any state officials present or on Zoom that wish to comment? Please raise your hand in person or on Zoom if you wish to speak. Are there any local officials present or on Zoom that wish to comment? We're going to stop for a minute just to fix the camera.
Okay, thank you.
If
Be clear, on or off.
back on, please. Thank you, David. The first public official who registered to speak is Mr. Tom Flaherty, who's the general manager of the Westfield Gas and Electric Department. Could you come up to the podium, please?
What's up?
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm Dan Alley. I'm a city councilor. I'd raised my hand.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do I need to stand over there?
Please do.
Sorry.
Oh, I'll sit down.
Sorry, Tom. By speaking to this or this,
Okay, sorry.
I don't think I need both of them. Yeah.
Could you repeat?
Okay. All right. Dan Alley, Allie, 38 Union Street, and I'm a Westfield City Councilor. And I just have a question. Is there any scenario or circumstance in the event of a fire where firefighting foam containing PFAS would need to be used?
Could the company respond to that?
No, sir.
The answer to that question is no.
Are there any other members of the city council who wish to speak? Please come up to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Karen Fanion. That's Fanion. My address is 83 Cabot Road in Westfield. I'm the Ward 1 City Councilor, and this project is located in Ward 1. I'm here tonight to represent my constituents of Ward 1. I have received an overwhelming amount of opposition to this proposed battery storage facility to be located on Medeiros Way. As you know, the proposed battery storage facility is directly over the aquifer. And with this direct vicinity of the aquifer, it raises many concerns. The materials the batteries are made of, mostly lithium ion, cause environmental risks. There is risk of fire and thermal runaway. Fire suppressants used to fight a fire contain toxic materials. The risk of water contamination from firefighting runoff and chemical leaks is particularly concerning relative to the history of water contamination in Westfield. The risk of fire is very real, and there have been actual fires of battery storage facilities in past facilities, such as in South Korea, Arizona, and New York. And battery storage facilities generate light and noise pollution. I therefore ask for the following documentation: the list of types of batteries to be stored, including the material makeup, a fire safety plan, the suppressants to be used in the firefighting, the plan to reduce the noise, a lighting plan, and a security plan. While safety features in battery storage facilities are essential and significantly reduce the risks, they do not eliminate them entirely. The potential for fires, leaks, and environmental contamination remains, especially in sensitive areas like aquifers. Given the significant environmental and safety risks, locating a battery storage facility near an aquifer is not advisable. The potential for water contamination, along with the challenges in controlling fires and the hazardous materials involved, makes such a placement a high risk. It is crucial to consider alternative locations that minimize these risks and ensure the protection of our vital water resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the city council who'd like to speak?
My name is Kristen Mello. I live at 27 Mosley Avenue, and the people in this room are shocked because I never take this off in public buildings. I'm immune compromised. My body is full of PFAS chemicals that I drank in the water that you are talking about putting this storage on top of. The parcels you are talking about include the Zone 2, which the state is responsible to protect, and we are responsible to protect. I'm sorry, I am very angry. No, they don't use PFAS firefighting foam, AFFF, to put out these fires. Not anymore, because they've used millions of gallons and it doesn't really work. They put PFAS in these cells to keep the thermal runaway from happening. And when it does, it puts hydrogen fluoride gas in the air. Chemists call it the devil's piss. That will rain down on us. We will breathe it. I didn't see in that spiffy little presentation how far away it was from our environmental justice communities. There's a map for that. Didn't see that. Didn't see the map from the EPA or Massachusetts showing the health impacts of our environmental justice communities here in Westfield. There are maps for that. Didn't include that. Didn't show the Arm Brook. Didn't show that that is a cold water fishery already impaired. Didn't show where the natural gas and the storage tanks for gas are filled. Didn't show where the new F-35s are coming in. Didn't talk about what happens and what chemicals escape when those things catch on fire, or the frequency of the fires, which I don't know if you know, but in the last 4 years are like way up. And they burn some of them for weeks. There's a school right near there, 600 yards away. How far does that stuff move? Did you know when they did that research, they only had to look at where what the chemicals go to the perimeter of the project, right? Because once it hits that edge, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go into the aquifer, nobody breathes on the other side of the property line. You have priority about saving money, about green energy. Green energy isn't full of PFAS on our aquifer. Appropriate siting isn't on top of an aquifer, poisoned. 1,000 people. We had an ATSDR exposure assessment here. The people who drank the water had direct correlation between the PFAS in their blood and the PFAS in their water. And we're sitting here talking about it like, oh, well, is it an appropriate site? No, it isn't. When you said we're using the foam, it's because the PFAS is included. So you're going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter about the local zoning because we need to store power. For who? Is it coming to us? Westfield takes all the risk. Our residents take all the risk. Who gets the benefit? I asked them. Who gets it? Eversource. Is it coming back to Westfield first? Are we going back online first when the power goes out? No. Are they putting buildings on this so that our property taxes go up? No. What's inside those boxes? No. When the Environmental Justice Council came to Holyoke, I zoomed into that meeting and said, hey, how come Jupiter Power keeps coming back every couple years? And when I asked them what's in the box, they ghost me. I'm a city councilor. Why do they keep ghosting me? Where's the environmental justice? And so now you're here in a room that's at least 85 degrees. Do you know how hot it is in one of these? I'm back there fanning myself. I see you wiping the sweat off your brows. You can't reduce the temperature in here. You hold a meeting at 6:30 the week after Thanksgiving. You call it environmental justice. No, it isn't. It's a lie. It's a dog and pony show where you sit here and all of you and half of them get paid to sit here and let us talk. And you're going to make your decisions somewhere else where you don't drink our water, you don't breathe our air, and you're driving kids to Boston for kidney treatments. Lucky for you, I have 2 chemistry degrees, and I'm going to write down all the information I found out about what battery ESSs do and what's wrong with our aquifer and all those maps, and I will send it to you fully referenced in writing by the 20th. And you will be lucky if I don't come after the state for the violation of our rights, because when that fire foam was sprayed, those National Guard people were under state control. Be careful what you decide here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the city council who'd like to speak? Are there any other public officials from the city of Westfield who would like to speak? Mr. Flaherty?
Thank you, Commissioner, Ms. Sharkey. Just a few things, kind of backing up Councilor Mello. It's not always that we agree on things, but there is not an overall benefit to the residents of Westfield as far as the power that's going to be stored and then released back into the system, into the Eversource transmission line. That power just goes straight back into the transmission line. Some of that power could come into Westfield through that line, but it's not Westfield buying that power. I do have a couple questions, and it's probably a quick answer. Is there any way to bring up the site map again or no? Be the design. Nope, that one. So Westfield Gas and Electric is the owner of the property in the middle on the south side where the substation is. And there is the line that the transmission line, I believe, is a dual cable line coming from the north to the south properties. We have our distribution system lines coming out through that same direction. I was just wondering how that power is coming in, because we were under the understanding that there was just going to be access coming from the second line into the substation on the Eversource set.
So that line,
Dan, could you just identify yourself?
sure.
For the
This
record?
is Dan Watson with Westfield ESS LLC. So that line will be directionally bored. It'll be underground. I think after our meeting.
That line will be
It will be directionally bored underground. That line was done in consideration after meeting with WG&E officials and considering the number of utilities in that area. But we want to make sure that that still works for you all and continue to have these conversations.
Okay, so we'll still work on an easement for.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I'm sorry to the stenographer. I think you have my name, but I didn't give my address before. Does that matter? Are we good?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Trying to think what else. I had one other question. I just would like to comment about Jupiter. Ever since their filing into the ISO New England queue in 2021, they have been very communicative with us, very open with us, and not necessarily a partnership, but we've had a great flowing conversation regarding this project and what the needs are with us and Eversource. So I do applaud them for that, because there's been other entities coming into town that don't really want to talk to us. And but again, the benefit that I see to Westfield is really more of a tax benefit and cleaning up that yard. That's about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I understand the Westfield Fire Chief, Stragloff, wish to speak.
Good evening, Patrick Egloff, Fire Chief, Westfield Fire Department, and the authority having jurisdiction for any fire permitting. This is more of a statement than anything else. Mr. Flaherty had said Jupiter has been very, they've reached out to us probably in July, so they've been very communicative also. What's that?
It's not these.
No, it's not. So fires in ESS facilities are low frequency, high risk events. But when they happen, things can be catastrophic. There have been major fires in the US as well as across the world from thermal runaway, which make ESS fires that could burn for days. When you have a fire in an ESS, you need to put copious amounts of water on the fire. And if it burns for days, we could be talking about hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, because we have to try to put the fire out and as well as cool the exposures. That water has to go somewhere. And I received a lot of phone calls lately of people worried about the aquifer. I'm also worried about, I've concerns for firefighter health and safety as well as the citizens because of the gases that are being given off. And I just wanted everybody to know in the audience that Fire Risk Alliance has given us documentation for hazard mitigation, and they are willing to work with us to train our firefighters, because there has been an increase in fires over the last 4 years in everything lithium, not just these battery modules, but in the homeowners' batteries. Lithium ion batteries have issues. And I want to make sure that my firefighters and the citizens are as safe as they can be. I have a career, and my men and women have a career in something that we could go and not go home to our families and our friends the next day. And I want to make sure that everything is done to make this as safe as possible if it happens. Thank you.
Does Deputy Fire Chief Kane wish to speak as well?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public officials who would like to speak before we move on to members of the general public? Yes.
My name is Mike McCabe. I'm the mayor of the city. It's nice to meet you all. Thank you to everybody for coming. I came here tonight with the same kind of questions that I think everybody else has. I specifically, when I got the notice from the D.P.U of the meeting tonight, asked if General Manager Flaherty would come along. The communicative, you can't do it. The communicative one, Mr. Chief Egloff from the fire department. My chief concern has always been and will always be, obviously, for the safety of our citizens. I am concerned, as I've kind of kept quiet now for a little while because I kind of wanted to see how this played out, as to really what would happen in the event of a fire. And I think that they did a very good job about kind of skirting the issue without really talking about the calamitous effect that a fire could actually have in terms of spreading over the aquifer. And I'm not just talking about the flames and the heat. I'm actually talking about the water. So I want to thank them for coming up and having these conversations. And I think that you're probably going to hear a lot more of those same conversations coming in and behind you. And I want to thank Karen Fannin, Councilor Mello, and Councilor Alley for voicing their opinion on the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe Miriam Babinski was the first person to sign up to speak.
Okay, since you called my name, I will, as soon as I get situated, get my glasses out. Thank you, Commissioner Rubin and the D.P.U team. I want to welcome you to Westfield and the Pioneer Valley. And my name is Mary Ann Babinski, and that's Mary space ANN space BABINSKI. I reside at 114 Rogers Avenue, which is approximately 1.7 miles from the site of the proposed battery energy storage system called BESS. I wanted to write a song about it, but I didn't have time. I had notes, but I'm going to show you how much I have crossed off and everything, because a lot of the stuff was already said eloquently, but I want to just on the record make some comments, because I'm going to focus also on some of the issues with our water resources. I'll try to keep my comments brief, but everybody knows I have a problem with that. No laughing, please. Over the last couple of years, just for a little background of my own background, I have followed and been actively involved in efforts regarding environmental justice in the state of Massachusetts. I have participated in many virtual or in-person meetings regarding cumulative impact assessments, which you all know about, and the EJ strategy. As a former director of Westfield Concerned Citizens and a former Ward 1 city councilor, I attended many Barnes Aquifer Protection Advisory Committee meetings, which you've already heard is no longer in existence, and that's too bad for us. As the chair of the council's Natural Resource Committee, I was involved with implementing, strengthening, and enforcing the city's water resource protection district zoning. So I'm very familiar with what our concerns are with that zone 2 and our water resource zoning. Over the past 2.5 years, I've had several opportunities to meet and communicate with these Jupiter guys over here, and as they presented and represented the BESS project. In fact, way back on March 7th, 2022, I first met their representatives at City Hall with Councilor Mello phoning it in. And on January 24th, at their public community meeting that they held at Barnes Airport, I met them. They were running an online and in-person event and explaining this project. On June 26th, there's big gaps in between when these things happen, obviously, as you're seeing. On June 26, 2024, they held an open house at Elks Lodge on Franklin Street, which didn't have a very high attendance, but they did their best to present the whole project to the residents that showed up. In June of 2024, that same month, preliminary information had been mailed to us about the original parcel plan. And what I noticed is that they had replaced, I should say, one of the parcels that was north of the one that's near the Buck Pond substation. It was north of it and to the left of where Old Dominion was. That also touched a little bit of the other aquifer that we have. Now, in the notice that they sent pre-meeting at the Elks Lodge, pre-open house, I noticed that they had picked the parcel of land that was next to the solar field, which I heard some of you went by today. So I brought a map with me to the open house to explain to them that that parcel now was almost half over or overlapped our aquifer and Arm Brook, a very important brook, as those of us who live on the north side know that it is. This new parcel's location was a concern to me because it overlapped the water resource district. I'm skipping around because I crossed out a lot here. My concerns, and those shared by residents of the north side of Westfield who will potentially be impacted by the siting of this project, have been eloquently explained to you already by Councilor Mello. Our history with PFAS contamination of our aquifer and the increasing development and traffic congestion on the north side of Westfield is always a cause for concern for those of us who live up there. With this, and probably those of us who come off the turnpike too and try to get to where they live, which is somewhere else in Westfield. With the project's location now overlapping the Zone 2 water resource and Arm Brook, which I was told or heard at a meeting, it's intermittent from north of North Road down to Maderos, but from Maderos down, it is a perennial brook, and it flows south into the Arm Brook Reservoir. I, along with other residents, are concerned that once again, our water supply and the health and safety of residents, particularly environmental justice populations, will continue to be put at risk. Residents have stressed the importance of protecting our aquifers as a top priority in updates when they were present at updates of the Westfield's open space recreation plan, municipal vulnerability preparedness plan, and the master plan. This priority should not be ignored now. They put a lot of effort into building those documents. And now I have a whole bunch I crossed out here. So I'm going to skip down to here. As I have learned on a walk I took across the state, we must keep in mind that even a good thing, if you think it's good, can be a bad thing when it is cited in the wrong place. Our community needs to be ever vigilant regarding the where, what, and why of any new development on the north side in particular, because of everything that we have to deal with now. As stated already, and in the documents that the D.P.U sent, they're here to gather information as to one, whether the project is necessary, serves the public convenience, and is consistent with the public interest, and two, whether the zoning exemption should be granted, and if the proposed use of the parcels is reasonably necessary for the convenience or welfare of the public. From what I heard tonight, I'm gathering that the people sitting here would say no to any of that, or to all of that, I should say. Whoops. I'm flipping my page here. It should be of no surprise that citing another project which could potentially impact our water supply and also cause other hazards would be concerning to the residents of Westfield. When events we were assured shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't happen, they happened. because we are still in the throes of trying to understand and clean up the existing PFAS contamination, it makes no sense to me to keep adding more development that could pose a potential risk to our aquifer and to the health and well-being of the people in this city. Therefore, at this time, I do not believe that this is the best location to this battery energy storage system called BESS. It is not best place for BESS. Thank you.
Dave, you okay? Next, we have Brian Rissler, who's signed up to speak.
Thank you. My name is Brian Rissler. It's spelled R-I-S-L-E-R. I live at 929 Shaker Road, number 14. Can we go back to the slide that refers to best practices, please?
Andy has.
I read the applicant's proposal, and somewhere around page 70, I think, it referred to a greenhouse gas called sulfur hexafluoride. Dan, is that correct? And my question is, the presentation says that greenhouse gas emissions are none, but in the petition that was filed, it indicated that there would be approximately a 1% release per year. And I don't understand how to reconcile those two figures.
So Shane Early responding. That's a material that is in the project substation. Shane Early speaking.
Could you just speak up, please?
That is a material that is in the project substation, not a gas, and we can talk in more detail afterwards about what Epsilon put in their testimony regarding that. Happy to provide more information now or later.
Thank you. And presumably the greenhouse gas emissions are none during normal operation. Can you comment on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that would be released in the event of a thermal runaway?
Shane Early again for the company. I believe that there's statements in the testimony of Fire Risk Alliance on that and discussing. Shane Early again for the company. There's statements regarding any sort of thermal event and that there will always be a release of greenhouse gases, no matter what kind of thermal event that there is. We can get into more detail. It's impossible to quantify in generalities what would happen in any sort of thermal event.
Would it be more or less than the amount of material that was released by Union Carbide 40 years ago during the Bhopal, India event?
I don't know the details of that event enough to comment. Again, we're happy to follow up afterwards with you and provide more details.
Okay. This project has been proposed for some years now, and there's been ongoing discussion with City of Westfield officials. What has prevented the company and the City of Westfield from reaching a negotiated agreement up until now?
At this point, there hasn't been an agreement. We hope to continue those conversations and reach one down the line.
Okay. My last question concerns the welfare of the residents of Westfield. And I don't like to think in terms of worst case scenarios, but the worst case scenario that I can imagine is we do have a catastrophic runaway thermal event. And for whatever reason, the company has gone bankrupt and its insurance providers are insolvent. What would prevent the Department of Public Utilities from requiring some sort of evergreen financial guarantee that any damage could be repaired or any decommissioning could be paid for in the event that the company and its insurers are unable to do so? I don't expect an answer right now, but something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Britton.
Hi, I'm Jessica Britton. I live at 36, Britton. Can we go back to like the very first like presentation page? Okay. I live at 36 Casimir. Did I already say that?
No, but thank you.
Okay. No problem. Okay, so I just have a couple questions and I'm just, interested. So the Streamfield Energy Storage is by Westfield ESS LLC. So that is the name of the company that will be operating in Westfield, correct? That's the name of the LLC?
Yes, that's the name of the LLC, and Jupiter Power above is the parent company of that company.
Okay, great. Now, who owns Jupiter Power?
There's a number of different investment owners. I don't know them off the top of my head. We can follow up and get you
Well,
and send you that information. Like,
Have an article and you can easily find this on like, I don't know, everyone likes using Google. I like using Bing, but any of those kind of search engines. And back from November 15th of 2022, it says NCAP Investments sells Jupiter Power to BlackRock. Does BlackRock own Jupiter Power?
I know that BlackRock is an investor in it. I don't know the ownership percentages.
Okay. So if we go back to that, now BlackRock kind of sounds familiar. They kind of seem to own almost everything in the world. I mean, they're two of the world's big three asset managers, and they have top shareholders in pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer, Moderna, J&J. They have ownership in Apple and other technology companies. And sometimes they're kind of looked at as the fourth branch of the government. Combined, BlackRock and Vanguard manage more than $15 trillion globally. And let's see. Like I'd mentioned, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Coca-Cola. Oh, the news stations, Fox, CBS, Comcast, NBC, CNN, Disney, ABC. They've gotten a lot of assets that were transferred to them during a toxic asset cleanup with the Obama administration. And let's see, in 2020, BlackRock received a no-bid contract from the U.S. Treasury Department to manage $454 billion under the Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security Act. That's the CARES Act. So there seems to be a lot of money in a lot of different hands that BlackRock seems to own, and it looks like they want to own Westfield with this battery storage park that's going to be built on our aquifer that gives no benefit to the citizens, but further detriment. And I am a lifelong citizen and I was poisoned by the PFAS as well. So I don't see why we're doing this. I do see this whole like name change game because, in the business world, we do play shell games, but I'm just curious. Why are we doing it here? Why are we doing it on the aquifer? What are you guys going to do to mitigate when something goes wrong? Because Murphy's Law, if it can happen, it will happen. And just because we can do it doesn't mean that we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who signed up to speak is Ms. Harrington or a Mr. Harrington? Ms. Harrington. Can you just give your name and spell your last name?
Kathleen Harrington with a K, Harrington, 1445 East Mountain Road. I have a bunch of questions. And you did bring up what kind of catastrophic event could possibly be. I worked in Virginia Beach. Well, I worked in Norfolk, lived in Virginia Beach, far enough away from the Oceana Air Naval Station You pay homeowners insurance based on how close you are to that base. So if you're in zone 1, you pay outrageous property insurance, because what if a fighter jet actually crashed? It did. It killed a woman who was just driving on the road. So that's why it's really important that it not be built on the aquifer. Because when you consider who is in the neighborhood besides White Oak School, you have our Brook Village, which is a senior community. And those folks wouldn't move very quickly if there was some kind of an emergency. And I don't think, actually, they would be prepared to move their population if there were to be some kind of an emergency, and they're right next door to the school. I'd like to know why it seems that Jupiter is targeting gas and electrics that are municipally owned. It would make more sense to actually be in a community that Eversource does business with, because when there's a power outage here in Westfield, we have Westfield Gas and Electric we can depend on. We know that when there's a natural disaster someplace on the East Coast and it's a municipally owned power company that's in trouble, that we send our guys there. And Eversource responds to bigger privately owned electric emergency outages. When there are heat waves and natural disasters in Texas, where power is out for days, 10, 2 weeks at a time, and people are left cold, you have people who, when they do get their power back, they are charged outrageous prices per kilowatt hour, like $1,600 to $2,000. Can you imagine getting your bill for electricity because you happen to be one of the first communities to go back online? What's the point? We're not in that situation where we need that kind of help here in Westfield. So if you are for profit, how about if you locate where you may need that kind of resource, because Westfield doesn't need that resource. You also mentioned at one point in time that it is going to benefit the city with jobs, but then you said it's going to be remotely operated. That seems a great disconnect. And I'd say here in Westfield, and they're not all the questions that I have, I think I'll submit them online. But here in Westfield, I think that our water is probably the most precious natural resource that we have. And I don't see any reason to put that in jeopardy, especially since you're based in Austin and Texas, like they used to say about Western Massachusetts. If you're in Boston, just go any place in Western Massachusetts. There's free parking everywhere. Well, there's plenty of blank space, empty land in Texas, and you could just put those storage units there.
Thank you. That's the end of the people who have signed up to speak tonight. If there's anyone who would like to speak, who hasn't signed up, please come up now. Or raise your hand on Zoom. Ma'am?
I've been up. Can I ask a question?
If you want to come back, but if somebody hasn't spoken who's waiting, please come.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed battery storage project. My name is Courtney Danaker, C-O-R-T-N-E-Y. Danaker is D-A-N-N-E-K-E-R. I am a abutter to the project and live in the rural residential area just north of the project on North Road. I have a degree in mechanical engineering and 22 years of professional experience in the environmental regulatory field. My comments this evening are relevant to the information contained in the sound level assessment report, which I have reviewed, and the sound impacts from the project on nearby residents. Because battery storage facilities are known to be loud, due to the need for each battery unit to be climate controlled while also operating 24/7. The project has the potential for noise impacts at the project's property line and at nearby residences. Noise is considered an air contaminant in Massachusetts. Therefore, it's extremely important that the DPU closely evaluate the sound report to ensure the project complies with the Mass DEP noise regulation at all property lines and nearby residences, mitigates all unnecessary sound, and does not worsen existing pure tone conditions. The sound report states that the project will comply with the Mass DEP noise regulation 310 CMR 7.10, which applies to the project's property lines and nearest residents. However, the report does not evaluate the project's sound pressure levels and increases above ambient at the project property lines. Without this data, it is unknown if the project will comply with 310 CMR 7.10. The report notes that, quote, the Mass DEP has waived these limits in certain cases at property line locations where the adjacent land uses are not considered noise sensitive, such as an adjacent industrial parcel, unquote. But the report does not indicate if the project is seeking waivers. It is concerning that the report lacks data on the sound pressure levels and increases above ambient at the property lines. This information is essential and must be provided to determine if there will be compliance issues at the property lines. Additionally, the sound report does not explain all the potential sound mitigation methods, including operational restrictions, which were evaluated and how the proposed sound mitigation methods were determined to be the most effective. For example, a similar project, which is the Medway Grid LLC battery energy storage system, included operational restrictions in addition to physical equipment to further minimize noise. These restrictions involve limiting the fan speeds of the units to 40% of their nominal speed and implementing nighttime operational restrictions that limited the number of units simultaneously charging or discharging to 25% of the total units at night. More information is needed to confirm that the project has mitigated, to the extent feasible, all unnecessary sound from the project as required by 310 CMR 7.10(1). The project's evaluation of potential sound mitigation methods should include operational restrictions like the Medway Grid project. Another concern is that the sound report shows sound increases above ambient at the Armbrook Retirement Facility of 9 decibels between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. and 6 decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Since an increase of 10 decibels above ambient is perceived by the human ear as being twice as loud, and 5 decibels is perceived as a clearly noticeable change in sound level, the day and night sound level increases at Armbrook will be very noticeable by the residents. The report also shows 9 private homes in the rural residential area along Root Road and Bennett Road, which each have increases of 9 decibels at night. This can be seen on pages 35 and 36 of the sound report. These sound levels have the potential for nuisance noise complaints. People living in rural residential areas should not be subjected to 9 decibel increases at night. As previously mentioned, additional information needs to be provided to confirm the project has mitigated all unnecessary sound to the extent feasible, rather than adhering only to the bare minimum. The sound report includes ambient sound monitoring data recorded during the day and night at the White Oak School in the rural residential section of North Road. On page 15 of the report, the ambient data reveals an existing pure tone condition during the night, as well as a slight pure tone during the day. According to 310 CMR 7.10, pure tone conditions are prohibited in Massachusetts, but the report failed to address the existing pure tone. Further evaluation is needed to determine if the project will worsen this condition. Based on my professional experience and the information currently in the record, it is unclear whether the project will comply with 310 CMR 7.10. Therefore, I request that the project should be required to address these areas of concern to ensure the project complies with the state's noise regulation at all property lines and nearby residences, mitigates all unnecessary sound, and does not worsen existing pure tone conditions. If the project's sound impacts are not addressed during the design phase, Resolving future nuisance complaints will be more challenging, and retrofitting sound mitigation will be more expensive. Lastly, a post-construction sound analysis should be required to determine the compliance status of the facility. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. I believe there's someone on Zoom. Could they raise their hand again?
Mary, all she was to for her camera animal.
Marielle, you've been promoted to the panel. Could you turn on your video and audio?
Yes. Hi, my name is
Now can you just give your name and spell it and your address, please?
Mary Lanza, Lanza. 868 Southampton Road. I have two questions. Well, first a comment. I am in agreement with the participants who have expressed their concerns. I have two questions. The first one is, and I don't understand how this works, but it sounds like the batteries are going to suck our excess electricity without compensation and resell it. Is that correct? My second question is, in the petition, there was from the company, there was a request to have individual and comprehensive exemption from our zoning laws. What are they proposing that is outside of what our zoning laws are? Thank you.
Would the company like to respond, please?
Sure. I'm Dan Watson with Westfield ESS LLC. Yeah, I'll take the first question. So first of all, any energy used by the battery is not obviously taken for free. It is compensated at market electricity prices based on the ESS New England and both day ahead and real time markets. And the idea of these projects.
Speak clearly, sir.
It's
These phrases just roll off.
Oh,
No, it very.
I'm
don't know.
I'm sorry. Okay. So I'll rephrase that. So all the electricity purchased by the battery system is paid at market prices based on the ISO New England both day ahead and real time electricity markets. So that's the regional electricity trading market. So none of that
And
is
who
uncompensated.
receives the money? Who receives that money that's purchased for the battery storage? Does it go to the city of Westfield?
It's
Does it
gone
go
to
to our
any
local?
energy generator that's participating during that time. And again, I will say the point of these systems is to provide power when electricity is needed most. So electricity in the Commonwealth is not used equally across all 24 hours in the day. There's great fluctuations, usually north of 30% during the day. And these batteries produce energy, sell it back onto the grid when it's needed most, usually when electricity prices are also higher. So that's the role of these projects.
Thank you. So Westfield doesn't receive the money that from the electricity that's taken from our Westfield Gas and Electric Company?
If Westfield Gas and Electric is the generator selling the electricity during those hours, then they would. If they are not, then no, they would not.
Okay, thank you.
And
my
Shane
second
Early,
question?
Yep. On your second question, Shane Early, there are a number of different specific exemptions that were requested, including height restrictions based on the mast that will be in the project substation. Those are all listed within the petition. There are a number of them. I can't recall them all off the top of my head. It also involved setbacks that are required under the zoning code for the industrial A parcels.
Thank you. Well, that seems concerning if there's so many exemptions that are being requested outside of our zoning laws that you can't recall them. Thank you for answering the question.
Are there any more people who haven't spoken who would like to comment? And then you could come up and ask your question next. Okay, there doesn't appear to be anyone online or in the room. Would you like to come up and make further comments? Okay.
Thank you. Do you want me to spell it again too? I don't know if I can spell it again. Mary Ann Babinski, 114 Rogers Avenue. I just have two questions. One is because as I mentioned before, is that when we originally met with them over a couple year span, the original parcel next to the buck pond was one of the parcels for this battery storage. The other one was to a little bit north and left along the other aquifer, along Timber Swamp Road. And when they switched it over to the solar field. So I was wondering what they were thinking when they moved it there. I don't know if they knew that that was the aquifer or it didn't matter, and whether they just wanted to be hugging the solar field. So that's one question. So I'm wondering if there's something else going on there. The other question is, I didn't mention before when I meant to, is that above the battery storage or the Buck Pond substation, the parcel to the left of that or west of it, above that, north of it is Old Dominion. I don't know if people remember Old Dominion Trucking Company came to town. And then after they were in here, they wanted to put a gas station or a fueling station on site for their trucks. So they didn't have to stop at gas stations. They could just come back to their main place there on Maderos Way and then fuel up. If people have mentioned catastrophic events that could happen with these batteries and have happened in some communities, I don't know in relation to the location of both of those parcels and what they're going to have there, if something could be such a catastrophic event that it could ignite and impact the Old Dominion gas stations, I'll just say in quotes, gas station that or fueling stations that they have built there. So that's all I wanted to mention because nobody's mentioned Old Dominion or the fueling stations. Thank you.
Would the company like to address those?
Sure. Shane Early, on the first question, I'd refer to the petition and the site selection analysis where it talked about each parcel and how the company evaluated those. That'll provide that information. With regard to the second question, I'd also refer to fire risk analysis and their reports talking about the mitigation of any risk from any sort of thermal event. And
yeah, Dan Watson with Westfield ESS. Yeah, nothing in the modeling that we've done, Fire Risk Alliance has done, that was performed by the manufacturers of these facilities showed any risk of anything going that far into the Old Dominion property. That's also shown in the reports provided as part of the petition, and we're happy to supplement those as necessary.
Ms. Mello?
Thank you. Something Mary Ann said came to my mind. That other aquifer with by the other parcel that isn't in our zone 2 that I'm so obsessed with, that aquifer is the zone 2 for Southampton. Where y'all call that? Anybody? Southampton? They're drinking water too. Thoughts?
this just, oh, sorry, they answered.
No, just give your name.
Okay. No, that's okay. You will by the end, so. Jessica Britton, Britton. What are we gonna leave our kids in our future, in our community? My son is in 8th grade, and today he had to do an interview of community members on just questions on what's important to Westfield. And so he asked me, he's like, what are 3 things that are important to Westfield? And so I had to think. And I said, well, first of all, it's the water. Obviously, any community that's built on water has a lot of wealth. You know, back when the city or town at the time was founded in 1669, you know, they founded around the waters because you need water to live. Our second, you know, tangible benefit resource to Westfield would be our local municipality, the Westfield Gas and Electric. We're able to have our own energy. So that is a huge value to the citizens in the city of Westfield. The third thing is our land. We have a lot of parks. We have Stanley Park. We have Grandmother's Garden. We have a lot of green spaces. So like what was mentioned before with, you know, out in Western Mass is very different than Boston, which I've driven all around because I'm a pharmaceutical rep. And today even, but you know, those are the 3 things that are important to us. And so when I was asking who owns Jupiter Power, really, with the BlackRock, they already own the world. We own our autonomy still in Westfield. And this project should not be here. It shouldn't be on our aquifer. It shouldn't be taking up our land. If we're truly a Texas company, like that suggestion was made, go build it in Texas. We don't want it here. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come up again. And just give your name again for David.
Kathleen Harrington. Do you need my address again? Okay. So I have a few questions. One is, in your presentation, you said long-term was 20 years. And perhaps a little research on the city of Westfield would have shown you that there are 2 schools about to close and they've been around for what, 60 years? That's what we call long-term here. We're not talking about 20 years because it didn't even take 20 years for Enron to blow up and go away. So I'm just wondering about the tax incentives for the city of Westfield. What happens to waste from the lithium batteries? What are your responsibilities for taking it away from Westfield? Because you're certainly not going to bury it here. And finally, back to the water. I actually got to interview T. Boone Pickens once. And if I were to say what he says, the most valuable resource that he owns, you'd be shocked because it's not his oil or his gas reserves. It's the land that he owns in Canada that has all this water that he just needs to figure out how to get to the United States. And you really have to consider that's an Oklahoma, Texas guy who says that about the water. And was there one more? And again, I don't think we have an answer about how many jobs are actually going to be here in Westfield once the construction is done. How many jobs are being created? Where are those people being trained? Are you bringing them in from someplace else, from another Jupiter Power property? I'd like to know.
Would the company like to address her question?
One response to Councilor Mello's earlier comment, pursuant to the D.P.U's notice and order of notice, the Southampton Planning Board was served with notice of this proceeding.
Would anybody else like to come back up or Someone who hasn't spoken before, like to come up and speak? Or online? Okay, then I would like to thank everyone for participating tonight. I would like to remind you that comments and requests for participation are due Friday, December 20th, 2024. We welcome your input and questions. The information is very important in our review of the proposed project. If you have questions relating to tonight's hearing or want a clarification of the department's review of this case or anything else related to this hearing, please email me at my address, donna.sharkey@mass.gov. I'd like to thank everyone for their participation tonight and for the comments and questions that you have offered regarding the company's proposed project. Thank you. Off the record.